Um, by a show of fingers, who, and this is a personal question, so I'm not going to ask you to go too deep. By a show of fingers, who is in a personal relationship with or married to a woman among the seven of you? Three of you. I got William, Samuel, and John. Okay. Among the three of you, is that woman planning to vote for a different candidate for president than you are? No. Okay. Um, is Donald Trump a liberal, moderate, or conservative on abortion? Or do you not know? And if you don't know, please don't guess. Just say you don't know. By a show of fingers, who would say that he's a liberal when it comes to abortion? None of you. How about a moderate? Three of you. Who would say he's a conservative on abortion? Four of you. Okay. Is Kamala Harris a liberal, moderate, or conservative on abortion, or do you not know? Who would say she's a liberal on abortion? Five. Who would say she's moderate? Two of you. Okay. By a show of fingers, who would say former President Trump is at least partially responsible for Roe v. Wade's being overturned by the Supreme Court in 2022? Who say he's at least partially responsible for that? All seven of you. Jake, in what way is he partially responsible?
He put like three, I believe, of the Supreme Court justices that made that decision on the court. So, and that way he's more than partially responsible, I think.
Okay. Is anybody else going to say anything different from what Jake said? Samuel?
He takes credit for it directly.
Okay. Andrew?
He created a political climate in which a decision like that would be, I mean, so he thought more accepted than, and less accepted than I think he expected. But I think, yeah, creating a sort of environment or climate for which this was a fitting decision.
Okay. Joel?
Similar to that, he just kind of fueled the setting that it happened in.
Meaning?
Through like I don't know, giving more of a like encouraging the part of his voter base that really wants abortion illegal, by like kind of elevating them or bringing them more into the centerfold. I guess, yeah.
Okay. So, by a show of fingers, for how many of you will abortion be a big factor in whom you'll vote for in November's presidential election? For five of you, okay? All but Jake and John. So, William, explain in what way is abortion going to be a big factor for you?
While I don't think it would ever get overturned, at least in the Philadelphia region, have seen directly what lack of access to healthcare can do to people. Uh, Supporting someone who would try to take that away from people around the country makes me uncomfortable.
Okay. Andrew, how's it going to affect your vote?
Similarly to what Williams said, I'm from Oregon originally, where abortion rights are protected, but I've seen how lack of access has really detrimental effects, particularly for low income and people of color across the country. And I think that bodily autonomy is a basic right, and so it's definitely playing a big factor into my decision.
Okay. Samuel, what about you?
Even though it doesn't really affect me directly, I do believe that it should be either a constitutional right or a protected right. They've had the chance to do that for 40 years.
Okay. Noah?
Yeah, I would just say that it's another basic human right, and even though abortion wouldn't necessarily affect me directly, these are all segues when you don't protect certain human rights. I mean, you need to protect all of them.
Joel?
Aside from it being a human right, I think it does impact me. Like if I get someone pregnant, I don't want kids. So be nice to keep my freedom.
John, tell me why this will not be a big factor for you.
I just feel like there's like more pressing issues. From what I've learned, even though Donald Trump has kind of, I guess, kind of taken us a step back with like just things he's done. Uh, like it's still within the states' rights to like, there's places, states that are for abortion, some states that aren't for abortion, and I just feel like there are, I guess, just more pressing issues that we gotta like deal with, and that are like, I don't want to say like more important, but that I feel like need to be addressed sooner.
Okay. Like, what would be one that would be more pressing to you?
Climate change, how like the economy, like where the economy's going, the inequality between the rich and the poor.
Okay. Jake, what about you? Why is it not so big factor for you?
Well, I am like obviously I support that pro-choice. But like say both candidates were like on the same side about that, like I would like there would still be a different like bigger issue basically, like how if both, let's just say imagine both sides were against abortion and like there's nothing you could do about it, like I would still you know what I mean, there would still be something like a different deciding factor for me that would help me pick one of them essentially.
Okay.
Like, it's just not the deciding factor in my opinion.
Like what issues are the deciding factor for you?
Um, Personally, this may not like other people may not relate to this, but I think the Ukraine war is pretty huge. Like, Trump basically has insinuated that he'll stop supporting Ukraine, which is essentially just handing over territory to Russia, which I think in the long run is a bad thing because it'll just it'll embolden them and make them think they can. It could lead to world, like it reminds me of like Hitler in the 40s. Obviously, I wasn't alive then, but from history, it kind of that's what it looks like to me.
Okay. Um, so going back, a couple of you mentioned that that the abortion would be a big factor for you. Of the five of you who said abortion would be a big factor, a couple of you referenced you've seen firsthand what the lack of access does. So William, I think you said that. Who did someone else say that? Did else make that point? So I guess William, I guess is that a personal experience or is that sort of a professional experience?
More professional.
Okay, got it. So Vice President Harris says that if Trump is elected president, he and Republicans in Congress will ban abortion in all 50 states. I'd like to know whether you think she's describing a realistic scenario or whether she's clearly exaggerating what would happen in a second Trump term. Everybody got that question? She's making an assertion. I want to know whether you think that she's describing a realistic situation or whether she is exaggerating. So by a show of fingers, who says that she's describing a realistic scenario? Three of you. Who says that she's clearly exaggerating? I got one who didn't. Oh, four of you. Sorry. And finally, on this topic, some Republican office holders support a national ban on abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy, with exceptions for cases of rape, incest, or risk to the physical health of the mother. By a show of fingers, who would support this 15-week ban policy? . None of you. Okay. Why wouldn't you support it?
Because it was a right that was taken away. I think that there are cases that, well, just in general, it's a right that's someone else's right to choose. And since that was already a right, I think, starting back over from getting rid of it, then creating kind of curbs, I think that infringes on that right.
Got it.
And every person's medical situation is different.
Okay. Got it. And William?
I would need to hear a very detailed explanation of why 15 weeks would be the specific cutoff. I think that just seems, I mean, maybe there's something physiologically, but that seems moderately arbitrary to me.
Okay. Got it. I want to ask one other thing on abortion before we move on to the last topic. For how many of you, when you're talking to friends about who they're going to vote for, does the abortion issue come up a lot? Show of fingers. Who would say that when you're talking about who people are going to vote for, they cite abortion as the determining factor for them? For five of you, 4 or 5 of you. Okay. Got it. By a show of fingers, and this is a personal question, by a show of fingers, who is in a personal relationship or married to a woman in this group? I've got, what, 5? Eric, Drake, Brandon, Derek, and Brett. Okay? For the 5 of you, is that woman planning to vote for a different candidate for president than you are? None of you. Okay. So, curious, we're going to talk about abortion. Is Donald Trump a liberal, moderate, or conservative on abortion? Or do you not know? So by a show of, and if you don't know, please don't guess. Just say you don't know. So who would say that Trump is a liberal on abortion? None of you. How about a moderate? 5 of you. Who would say conservative? 2. And who would say you don't know? 1. All right. Kamala Harris, liberal, moderate, or conservative, or don't know on abortion. Who would say she's a liberal on abortion? I've got 6 of you. Who would say she's a moderate? 0. Who'd say she's conservative? 0. Who said you don't know? 2. Okay. By a show of fingers, who would say former President Trump is at least partially responsible for Roe v. Wade being overturned by the Supreme Court in 2022? Who would say Trump is at least partially responsible for Roe v. Wade being overturned? 7 of you. Let's see. Sam, in what way is he partially responsible? You're muted.
Sorry, I don't know the full details of it, but I know his view on abortion itself. It's to a point where even rape or incest, he pretty much is supportive on abortions, or not supporting the abortions of that.
But Sam, what is it what would make Trump partially responsible for Roe v. Wade being overturned? What did he do?
Not sure, to be honest.
Okay. Derek, what would make Trump partially responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade? What did he do?
I would just say that he was in office when basically the whole conversation started about overturning it. So I think that partially makes him responsible for it.
Okay. By a show of fingers, who could tell me about a very specific set of things that Trump did in office that made it possible for Roe v. Wade to be overturned?
I have vague ideas.
But hang on a second. Please don't say anything. Who can tell me about specific steps that Trump took to make it possible for Roe v. Wade to be overturned? Eric, who else? Brett, do you have?
Not specific.
Okay. Ebram. So two of you could tell me specific steps that Trump took. Okay. Eric, what were those steps?
I just believe it was like the circumstances that happened, but just being able to appoint Supreme Court justices to be approved by the Congress was during his presidency, and it happened to be that he was able to appoint 3, which is usually rare for a president. So I believe it was just the circumstances that allowed him to change the Supreme Court.
Okay. Ebram, is that what you were going to say or something different?
Yeah, I'm assuming he has conversations about the topic with all like potential nominees, so he picked ones that were willing to overturn it.
Got it. Okay. By a show of fingers, for how many of you will abortion be a big factor in who you'll vote for in November's presidential election? One of you. Eric. In what way, Eric?
I just believe, I guess it's because of my like values and belief systems that I believe protecting life at no matter what stage. And so a candidate that aligns with my values is who I'm going to vote for.
Okay. Got it. And for the other 7 of you, not a big issue.
I think we have bigger fish to
Oh,
fry.
Okay. All right. Who's with Brandon? You guys just have bigger fish to fry. Show of fingers. Who would say you agree with him on that? Okay. So just other issues matter more. Okay. So Vice President Harris says that if Trump is elected president, he and Republicans in Congress will ban abortion in all 50 states. I'd like to know whether you think she's describing a realistic scenario, or whether she's clearly exaggerating what would happen in a second Trump term. Everybody got the question? By a show of fingers, who says she's describing a realistic scenario that Trump would ban abortion in all 50 states if he got elected again? So none of you think that's realistic. So all of you think she's exaggerating. Okay. So some Republican office holders support a national ban on abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy, with exceptions for cases of rape, incest, or risk to the physical health of the mother. By a show of fingers, who would support this 15-week ban policy? Got 6 of you would support it.